most of today's college students were born, tuition and fees at public universities have more than doubled. And these days, the average student who takes out loans to pay for 4 years of college graduates owing more than $26,000. How many people are on track here for $26,000? And that doesn't just hold back our young graduates, it holds back our entire middle class, because Americans now owe more on our student loans than we do on our credit cards. And those payments can last for years, even decades, which means that young people are putting off buying their first car or their first house.
All right, why don't you just make college free, and that would solve the president's little dilemma. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. As we discussed earlier in the show, the president press conference today, or media event with college students behind him. Then he asked them, you can't afford to have the rates go up, right? Anybody here could afford another $1,000? No, I didn't think so. Joining us now to talk about this is Antony Davies, Associate Professor of Economics at Duquesne University and Mercatus-affiliated Senior Scholar at George Mason University. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. You have a problem with this. Of course, we should tell the people that the rate for the student loans now, federal rate, is 3.4%. It'll double to 6.8% on July 1st unless Congress approves an extension of this. My question to you, first of all, is why is the government in this business anyway? Why isn't this just handled by the private sector, so to speak, the banks, and people could shop around for the best student loan like they do for the best mortgage?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it should be done. You know, the president's talking about students graduating with $26,000 in debt. What he's completely ignoring is the benefit on the back end. That is, these college graduates will earn significantly more than people who don't have college degrees. The rate of unemployment is significantly less. So when you do all the math, what shakes out is the average college degree today is worth about $2 million. So that's the right perspective. Yes, you took out a $26,000 loan, but you did it to buy something worth $2 million. The government has no business subsidizing that.
Right, and you know, what I found interesting about the president, before we even talk about your concerns of a bubble, what I found interesting was the president's weak arguments. You know, he talked about himself as an example that, hey, me and Michelle, just 7-8 years ago, we paid off our student loans. Well, you're president of the United States, and you're a multimillionaire. I mean, so it didn't work out too poorly for you. And saying that all this is about the students paying another $1,000 of debt, which he referred to as a tax, I'm sorry, it doesn't really tug at anybody, or not at my heartstring, you know? I mean, and they're not going to be able to buy a car or a house as fast. Well, again, they don't have to pay more than 10% because of the way the law is right now. He did bring that up. So I don't even see why he held this event, because to me, he didn't do himself any good.
Yeah, this is absolutely right. There's a sad commentary to be had here, and that's the following. When the government artificially pushes interest rates low on student loans, go out and take whatever.
All right, Anthony, I got to tell you what.
On the high end,
Anthony,
mathematics.
Anthony, I'm going to interrupt you. I need you to just start again. You said when the government artificially gets involved with rates on student loans, because the connection cut out a little bit. So start again with that last statement.
Yeah, if when the government intervenes and pushes interest rates low, what it does is encourages students to major in things that actually don't have much market value. For example, and while engineering mathematics is worth on the high end, you know, $4 million, you've got other things like child and family studies, elementary education, that are basically a wash. When we make it
all right, we're having
to get into college, what happens is we take away the penalty for majoring in things.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. It all depends on. We're going to actually try to reconnect with you right now on your cell phone to get a better connection. We're talking with Antony Davies, Associate Professor of Economics at Duquesne University and Mercatus-affiliated Senior Scholar at George Mason University, and he talks about a looming student loan bubble. where the government meddling in this, just as they did with the housing market, and in effect what happened there was, and I want to ask him about this, giving loans to people who really don't deserve it, won't be able to pay it back. Okay, so we're rejoined by Anthony. Anthony, so talk about what you predict is the looming bubble here. I mean, what happened as we saw, because I've played the sound bites and the tape from Andrew Cuomo, who was HUD secretary under Clinton, and he was bragging about the fact that they settled with a bank in Texas. $2 billion worth of loans will be given to poor people, mostly black people in Texas, even though he knew and they knew that a lot of them couldn't pay it back and wouldn't pay it back, and it would be foreclosed upon. It was the right thing to do. So, and that led, I believe, to the philosophy and what led to the housing bubble. How would we find ourselves in a student loan bubble, do you believe?
Well, it's interesting because the government has taken the same exact steps in the student loan market that it took in the housing market that led up to the bubble and the crash. The government is intervening. It's forcing banks to make loans to people regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of how well they will perform in college. And so what you're going to get is the same thing we had in the in the housing market, which is we're going to get students, we're going to push students into college. They're going to come out with a tremendous amount of debt. They're not going to be able to pay it back, and it's going to be worse than the housing bubble. Here's why. At least if I bought a house that I can't afford, I can turn around and sell the thing to pay off some of my loan. You can't sell back your degree. Furthermore, under the current law, you can't discharge that debt under bankruptcy.
Real, that's interesting. I did not know that. I didn't know that that could not be, you couldn't declare bankruptcy and discharge that loan. Obviously, great point that you can't sell the degree the way you could sell a house and try to make good on the mortgage payments or the mortgage that you owe to the bank. That is interesting. So how important is this what Congress does, or is it really basically meaningless? And the bottom line is the government should get out of this business. I mean, does it matter to what you just predicted and the likelihood of it occurring? Is it incumbent upon the rate doubling or the rate staying the same? Does that even enter into it?
Well, it does in the sense that the higher the rate goes, the more careful students are going to be in deciding whether to go to college, and once they're there, what they study when they're there. So students will start to become very much more careful about this investment. The problem that we've got right now is as government pushes people into college, we're setting up an entire generation for failure. They're not going to be able to pay back these loans.
Well, that's another word. I like the phrase pushes people into college because, when I went to college, you had to earn your way into college. You didn't take remedial reading and math courses in college. And, and you went where you could afford to go. And if you wanted to take out a big loan, you understood that you were taking out a big loan. But nowadays, I'm really amazed the president didn't hold a press conference and just, and this has been talked about, believe me, erasing every college kid's debt and basically making college, a guaranteed right for any high school student who can get any kind of degree out of high school.
That's absolutely right. And the problem is that phrase sounds so nice and gentle, erase their debt. What he really means is force the taxpayer who didn't go to college to pay for the guy who did.
We'd be paying for it. There's no such thing as erasing. Absolutely. It doesn't go away. It goes away because we're going to be paying for it. Anyway, very fascinating information, Anthony. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.